Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I don't mean to be this close. I got so many damn devices that I have to load up at once to make sure I can see all the comments here. Happy Monday to everybody. Okay, now I'm live. How goes it? We do have a little bit of breaking news regarding rosters for tonight's games. Steph Curry, Draymond Green, out. If you guys are looking for action tonight, breaking news once again as we go live. Those of you just joining us, this line is popping all over the place that you'll see at the bottom of the screen here. Golden State Warriors are now up to 8-point dogs without Steph Curry, which obviously means Draymond Green will not be playing as well. You know the drill by now. So that means if you're looking for some value, you scroll down to the likes of the Moses Moody's, the Gary Payton II's at 14.5. Wait a second. 14.5. Is that right? What? No, that can't be right. That's too high. Maybe because there's no liquidity. Just scroll around, 7.5 for Will Richard, Guy Santos. That can't be 14.5. Okay, that's just a default because there's no liquidity. All right. What's happening, people? Welcome in, welcome back. What's up, Shaden? What's up, Danny? Melton, yeah, Pajemski, that's going to be Pods. Melton, maybe Buddy Hield finally gets. I have no clue what really goes on with those Steve Kerr rotations on days where Steph Curry is out. So with no Draymond, you would think you get a whole bunch of minutes from Quentin Post, but I've seen games where Quentin Post plays the first 6 minutes of a first half and then just disappears until they come out of the locker room for the third quarter. What's happening, people? What are you doing on this Monday? It is 3:20 p.m. local time, 6:20 on the East Coast. Imagine many of you are dealing with the winter storm, which has hit the past 2 days, snowed in. Oh, good. Just lost my fucking video again. Friday's episode was practically glitch-free. And I've changed nothing. And now it looks like you're watching a video from E-Bombs World on DSL 1999 Netscape. It's so inconsistent. Helwick says we're working. Pacers Hawks. I don't mind the terrible Eastern Conference midday weekday game because it is perfect background noise. You don't really care about paying attention to Hornets Sixers without half of the Sixers team. The Hornets at least have been playing some good basketball lately, but no one was scheduling their day around that and Pacers Hawks. But yeah, there's a nice amount of sports on during the day, especially here on the West Coast because we get the Australian Open at night, which has been awesome. Brilliant Hoops is saying, did I notice the other name that was mentioned as almost as much as Rose and Tibbs was that of Tom Thibodeau? All the players, even the announcers, huge impact and respect from the players about, yeah. So what made that Derrick Rose ceremony so emotional, intriguing, honestly, because I'm not from Chicago, I'm not a Bulls fan, but I found myself watching every second of that ceremony to hear he had Luol Deng, Taj Gibson, Joakim Noah, those are the three. Maybe there was a fourth player as well that gave speeches, but they all were adamant that they felt like they too were being hoisted up into the rafters because of their camaraderie with with Derrick Rose all of those years, they felt they had an equity share in that banner going into the United Center rafters. And those names, by the way, that he's next to. So it's Jerry Sloan, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen. There's only 5 up there. I'm missing someone else. Holt, was it? I forgot. But man, Derrick Rose is in some pretty elite company with Reinsdorf. Because there are not many retired jerseys up there. But that was a good ceremony. And Derrick Rose's career certainly didn't have the longevity of some of these other all-time greats. But I think just because he's a Chicago kid, the peak at which they reached before the injury, the MVP season, the 1 seed, I mean, that is as good as it's been for the Bulls since the Jordan era. Can't really blame them for putting that jersey up there, and also how every single fan, and now it was a close game too. I think the Bulls won practically on a Kevin Huerter buzzer beater, if I'm not mistaken. But watching them stick around and know that that was the main event, like his connection to that city alone almost makes it worth putting the jersey up into the rafter, even before you start to acknowledge those accomplishments. UNC has a QB starting in the Super Bowl. Man, I am so torn by this. I'm glad you brought that up, Stoney. I despise the Patriots. Oh my God. So most of you know this already, but Peyton Manning being my hero, Indianapolis Colts and the Patriots were rivals for a majority of my childhood. I hated Belichick. I hated Brady. I hate their fans. Everything about the Patriots is just, even though the entire regime has been removed and replaced, and one of my personal favorite UNC quarterbacks of all time is there, I should be supporting them. But man, it is that brand that I cannot bring myself to ever consider supporting. I can't get there, even with Drake May. Pascal Siakam should be an all-star. I don't care how many wins. We know how good he is, and people are advocating for MPJ anyway. Neither of them. Oh my God. The All-Star game is already in the sewer. Letting Siakam or MPJ into the All-Star game? Come on, man. Those teams are horrific. Decent players. It's a non-starter for me on either of those. If we're going to be doing Pascal Siakam, Jalen Johnson has to be in front then. Has to be in front. You're not letting in Jalen Johnson, Michael Porter Jr., and Pascal Siakam. We can't do this. Like these teams are at the bottom of the Eastern Conference are unwatchable. I'll say the cutoff right now because the Hornets have been playing better basketball as of late. You start with Milwaukee and you go down. Every single one of those teams is an instant turn the channel. There is no like fun storyline to keep track of. No young player that's I just don't give a shit. They are horrific. I told you. I get yelled at by Carly in the chat for telling you how miserable the winter is in this particular continent. When is spring? It ain't coming anytime soon. The reason why I got a nice glow today, I've been at the beach since like 11:30, 70 degrees here, not a cloud in the sky. If you have the means to move, I implore you, life will be so much happier. You can just come in here at 3:15 and bitch for an hour. It's a great life. Should Rodman be up there? No. You're talking about the Bulls rafters? No, not even close. the system for selecting the reserves is going to be done by the coaches. Yeah, the system is still the same. And then ultimately, I think what happens is if too many Americans are selected and there's not enough to fill out the world roster, they'll start finding ways to like look up people's heritage to move them to the world team. This is just a disaster. The NBA All-Star game being a round robin is a disaster. People are not paying attention to an exhibition tournament format. Keeping the game shorter should incentivize that they should care more. Man, just get the players to care about the games, and that's all that matters. Maybe Wembanyama will. Wembanyama and Maxey, I feel like the two guys that are going to be pushing their teammates to actually try this year. We'll see. Okay, hold on. Helwick dares me. Try picking 7 East reserves and a Giannis replacement. Okay, because Giannis is not going to be able to. All right, good point. Should we do this now? Reserves. Okay, so Towns. The Pistons get 2. Jalen Duren going to be an all-star? The team at the top should probably have 2, right? Since I'm sitting here telling you that records matter, it should be Towns, Duren. Who else on Boston? Oh, yeah, Donovan Mitchell. Okay. Towns, Duren, Mitchell. Bam's got to be on there. Okay, that's 4. I'm going through the standings in my head right now. Give me a second. Jalen Johnson, 5. No, I will not get to Siakam. I will find 3 more. Maxey is already starting. Philly, oh God. Edgecombe, no. Oh God, the East sucks. I gotta find more so I can prove Helwick wrong. Hold on. Who else am I missing? Oh, Toronto. Scotty and Ingram? You gotta have 2 Raptors, right? Scotty and Ingram? I was about to suggest Emmanuel quickly. Okay, Magic players. Not Paolo. Not Franz. Not Bain. Not Carter. There's no Magic players. No Garland. No Mobley. Kind of, maybe. Mobley's on the border. LaMelo. Ugh. Yeah, I think you got to go Mobley. I think it's like Mobley and LaMelo instead of Siakam and Michael Porter Jr. Holy shit, the East sucks. Yeah, you're right. How many of those are going to be? None of those were international, right? None of those are world players that I just mentioned. This shit is so stupid. And by the way, we are people who are in the grind of a daily NBA slate and schedule. Can you imagine trying to educate a mainstream sports fan on not only the parameters, but the structure of the All-Star game? I guess, well, Cat's Dominican. Okay. This is so stupid. Who the hell would ever go out of their way to care about this? Like the entire reputation and equity that this game had built up with fans to make it a marquee event is gone completely. That probably stopped in the end of the 2000s, early 2010s. Trying to gimmick your way into you have to find 7 reserves, struggle to find 7 reserves of guys that are on these shitty teams to fill out a roster. Oh my God. I'm sorry. Yeah, now you need the coaches to vote in LaMelo Ball, who's probably the most popular player of the reserves. The West at least will have some reputable names. Elwick in the chat says Joe Johnson got 7 All-Star bids as the annual "we need to find a 7th East Reserve" selection. And Joe Johnson was pretty damn good, but you're right. I would say his ceiling was fringe All-Star. He was a perpetual fringe All-Star, which in comparison to most NBA players is quite the achievement. But if we're considering, him as someone that was making a franchise cornerstone contract for 10 straight years, maybe if I put this back on the screen, I'll stop being so glitchy. Norm Powell. Oh, are we at the point now? And oh, by the way, you want to talk about Norm Powell? Do you think Norm Powell wants to get into this year's All-Star game, considering LeBron James last year just decided to say, ow, my foot, my ankle, because something didn't go his way, and he took Norm Powell's spot? That could have been, if LeBron would have let the NBA know more than an hour before game time that he wasn't going to play, Norm Powell would have probably been there and been selected as a commissioner's replacement. Jamal Murray's getting in this year. Jamal Murray is almost 50, 40, 90. And without Jokic, this is the most obvious Jamal Murray year. Can we real quick chat? Let's go through the 7 West reserves. Is there any injury replacement? It's going to be Ant, Jamal, Kawhi. Yeah, I think Kawhi's got to make it. I mean, the dude is like best player in the fucking league the last month and a half. Is Harden going to make it now that the Clippers are getting close to 500? Okay, I'm just naming names, so give me a second. For LeBron? Okay, wait, just let me keep going. Thinking out loud here. There's got to be 2 Spurs. So who else besides Wemby makes it? I don't know. Dallas? Nobody. Houston? Şengün? Okay, Şengün. Holmgren. Avdia. Booker. How many was that? Castle. Yeah, man, that's close. Should Steph Castle make the All-Star game if the Spurs end up in the 2 seed in the West? By the time we get to All-Star, that's close. Okay, hold on. These are your locks. Ant, Jamal, Booker, Kawhi, Chet, Avdia, I need one more. Wait, Kevin Durant's not starting? Kevin Durant isn't KD a starter? What the hell is going on? Is it KD or LeBron who gets that last spot? Did KD not get in as a starter? Wait a second. Curry, Shea, Wemby, Jokic. Oh, he needs a replacement. So that's your LeBron spot. And Luka. Okay, so Jokic needs the injury replacement. KD's got to be on there. So it's the 7 spot goes to KD, and then LeBron's your injury replacement. There you go. That's your 7 right there. Is that fair? Yes. I was waiting for that question. Is Silver going to do what happened in 2019 with Dwayne Wade and Dirk Nowitzki, where the special commissioner's honor? They're making everything up anyway. And if LeBron doesn't get selected with that 7 spot or the injury replacement spot, you better believe, especially with it in Los Angeles, he's getting the honorary commissioners. I said so. Absolutely, that's going to happen. Having an all-star weekend without LeBron, even though he voluntarily chose last year not to participate, that was more beef between him. Oh, we just got some news here real quick. Coach Splitter said the plan. That's why Denny's sitting tonight. So Denny's out, people, for this game in Boston. Denny's out, but he's going to play in the second leg of a road back-to-back tomorrow, Tuesday. Okay. That makes more sense. But I do wonder if the NBA, whatever pissed off LeBron about something pissed off LeBron that he didn't participate in All-Star Weekend last year, if that has been resolved with the NBA to the point that he would accept that commissioner's exception plus actually play in the game. Something tells me it has been resolved. This all the All-Star game is a popularity contest. It's an exhibition that no one cares about. So if they just add that special spot, it's not like they're taking away Norm Powell's spot from last year. That was a problem because Norm Powell may have missed out on endorsements, bonuses, and if LeBron would have just let them know in advance, Norm Powell could have had it easily. Will it being an into it influence Harden getting in? I think that's why Kawhi will get in. But unfortunately, Vegan Barbie, the Clippers do not have a fan base that is clamoring for Harden's presence the same way that Indiana did with Tyrese Halliburton last year. If this was at Crypto.com Arena and Harden played for the Lakers, that would be a different story. But if we're talking about popularity contests in business, the Clippers and Harden don't have that weight, especially considering the scandal that has been unresolved almost intentionally because they will, you know what wouldn't surprise me now? Can I put on some proverbial tinfoil here for a second? If they drop the independent law firm findings about the Aspiration Kawhi scandal right at the end of the All-Star break as games are set to play coming out of it, or they will drop the scandal results during the day of the trade deadline or right before it. Perfect news dump 101 right there. News dumping 101. Do it during the Super Bowl or trade deadline day. No one will care. If I was Commissioner Silver, those are one of the 2 days that the NBA announces findings and punishments. Steve Ballmer will be like fined a slap on the wrist, maybe be put on probation or something, and the NBA might change a way that it signs endorsement deals between their players and the team, and how like there needs to be some sign off or oversight from Midtown Manhattan to get deals done. Like something like that. They'll come up with some legal jargon to make it look like action is being taken because of this, but nothing will happen actually. Nothing that wasn't already happening will stop happening as a result. Stoney asked, didn't Wade and Dirk get honorary nods because it was their last season? LeBron probably plays next year. Yeah, but it's in Los Angeles, and you can't have an all-star game without LeBron. They would have never have done this with Jordan. They would have never had an all-star game without Jordan unless he was completely retired from basketball completely for those 2 years. What's wrong with my Wolves? Well, they're going to win tonight because if you're just joining us, we got news at the top of the show that Steph Curry and Draymond are out. And this line at the bottom of your screen right here has pumped all the way up to -9.5. So the Wolves are going to respond. They obviously have some shit going on in the city, which has distracted the fans and the players. The players brought it up in the post-game press conference. They said they just didn't feel like they were there. They had what? They had 30 turnovers yesterday. They turned the ball over every time down the floor in the second quarter. I'm not even being hyperbolic. They quite literally turned the ball over for a good 5 minutes straight. They just weren't there, man. This is the NBA. There are going to be weeks where your team that has legitimate championship well, not aspirations, that's I should probably, ambition, are going to have weeks like the Knicks just did, where the whole world is crumbling. Trade everyone, fire everybody. We're broken. No, you're not. The NBA season is too long. Rosters are optimized so that the dog days of an 82-game campaign are going to have these little lulls because you're trying to keep guys in and out. Some guys are going to disengage. They don't practice anymore either. They're just going to have a week where, you know what, we probably should have beaten those teams and we didn't. And then the good teams will respond like the Knicks just did, winning 2 straight games. Big ABC show, Saturday showcase day in Philadelphia, one of the most hectic finishes of the season. They're going to get the Sacramento Kings next. What did I sit here and tell you? Check in with me this time next week, and I would almost guarantee the New York Knicks won't even be mentioned in national discourse because of how they just respond like they always have, and now nobody cares. It's part of the reason why the NBA schedule is so long and why most mainstream sports fans don't start paying attention until the end of it. Because honestly, these games don't feel like they matter. They do matter, but they don't feel like they matter. Our resident Clipper fan, Vegan Barbie, says, it kind of feels like no one but Pablo cares about aspiration. Honestly, I think all of these governors are setting up deals with players. Come sign with us, and I'll make sure that my friend at another company, is it against the rules? Probably, but first of all, everyone does it. It was just the Clippers who got caught. This was like college sports before NIL. Everyone cheated. It's just a matter of who got caught. So honestly, I'm kind of with you in that I don't care. But also the Clippers thinking that our shit doesn't stink is also hilarious. I don't care because I know all these other teams are doing something. They're just better at hiding their business. Do I think there's what's up, Phil? Asking, do you think there's a good team out there that doesn't make the playoffs altogether? The Warriors, Wolves, Lakers, Suns. How long is the Suns overachieving going to happen, especially without Booker? Are the Clippers going to win the Pacific Division, by the way? Because I'm sitting on some massive Lakers and Suns division tickets that I booked when Jimmy Butler went down. And the Clippers just won't lose a fucking game. They're 15-3 now in their last 18. They've got their fans eating their tweets. Which, by the way, I shout out to whoever that person is. God bless you. But that was a bit we did on Buckets back in 2017 where I ate my Philadelphia 76ers bet ticket on the under their season win total. I ate that shit live on air with the ink too at the very end of the show. Buckets was just too early is what it was. It was ESPN's first internet live show that they put onto Facebook Live, which was one of the new platforms with Periscope. And I ate that shit. It was nasty. It tasted like paper. But yeah, it's been 9 years, so who the fuck would remember that? Believe Steve. Please don't. Vegan Barbie. We live in a society today, obviously, which is built on echo chambers, us versus them, us versus the world. If you're not with us, you're against us. It's all tribal. We believe. You don't need to blindly believe, #believe Steve, just because you're a Clippers fan. Anyone wearing a Clippers uniform is innocent. That is not the case. People can be wrong. You can still support your club. But something tells me Steve, like many other governors, are doing shit like this often. But you don't get mad at the ones who don't get caught. Well, Helwick, you would remember it. You're the only one in the chat still around long enough to remember. I got to put myself down in this little box again because it's so glitchy. The wide screen is so glitchy. I have been watching Jalen Tyson. He's been their best damn player. Yeah, if you're a good team, that Wolves fan in the chat, if you're a good team, you'll lose a couple of regular season games. Then when everyone starts doubting you, you rattle off a 5-game winning streak where you really just flex all the stardom potential, the chemistry that the Wolves have being to those back-to-back conference finals. The core of the team is still there. The defense is still solid. Ant-Man is as good as ever. There's no doubt in my mind that the Wolves will find a way, despite losing to some teams they probably shouldn't have. Been lackluster. There's off-the-court shit going on too. Anything that happens in the middle of January in the NBA feels so irrelevant unless it's a major transaction or injury. Like the actual results of the games. When we have these shows at the end of April and the beginning of May, when we're in the heart of the playoffs, not a single one of you is going to be coming into the chat and saying, hey, do you remember when the Wolves lost 3 games in January when the Knicks went on that losing streak? And like none of that fucking matters in the NBA ever. We have the shortest attention spans and memories of any sport. I remember a New York Knicks team last year that got nationally embarrassed by the Celtics, Cavs, and Thunder. Those 3 teams went, 11-1, 12-1 against the Knicks, and every single one of those victories for them was in blowout fashion, where the Knicks didn't look anywhere near in the same tier or category as those 3. Not only did the Knicks dethrone the Celtics in the playoffs, the reigning champs make them look equally as bad. Here come the Indiana Pacers doing it to the Cavs in almost the same way. The playoffs are a completely different sport which is why you continue to see teams optimize their rosters so that they are as ready and available as possible for the postseason, because they treat the regular season like it's worthless. When you have a roster that you think is built for the playoffs versus a team that needs to overachieve, someone like the Phoenix Suns this year, the New York Knicks in the past with RJ Barrett and Julius Randle and Obi Toppin. They had to go out there and treat every game like it was game 7, because that's the only way that they could actually win games. But when the talent matches their energy, it always seems to rise to the top. Now we fast forward to 2026, roster versatility, which is not only depth, but guys that have interchangeable parts, mean more than anything else. Carly, when you say Periscope Wob was prime Wob, that implies I'm no longer in my prime. Am I washed? Or am I saying just because you didn't say it doesn't mean you mean it? Something tells me you're going to say, yes, you're washed. And I hope you do. I do put a lot less effort into making content. So, yeah. Don't have to anymore. Everything is so easy. The competition is so saturated and the bar is so low. People just want to watch something as simple as this. My internet doesn't even work. This damn stream doesn't even fucking work. Okay. That's much more. I'll accept that. I still get buckets, but the athleticism has tapered off. Fact. Joe says I'll actually remember some of these Hornets blowouts. Okay, yeah. I mean, you really got to have a memory like a sponge. Good thing I'm having the shittiest quality stream on a day where people are actually in here engaging and watching. Like, this isn't even close to being a fluid stream. How can someone from StreamYard tell me why on a Friday it is near flawless, and every day we load this stream, there's something different and wrong with it? It's not my internet. It's my internet is flying. Speeds are flying. Is it my browser? I am on an operating system with my Mac that is from 2019. I still haven't updated it. 2019, my OS Monterey Mac. Perhaps that is why. So it's been 7 years since I last did a software update. I will never let them update this computer until it just doesn't work anymore. It's how they get you. Then the new operating systems break the old hardware, so you have to go buy a new computer. Sean Livingston getting to the MIDI. I'll take it. I thought that was going to be a lot worse. I don't know what to clean up. Everything is optimal except for fucking StreamYard and OBS. Any live streaming software sucks. Both of your companies suck. Update shit every day for no reason. No one stream ever works. At least with Periscope, you could just hold your damn phone up and it would work. It didn't have many amenities. It was a bare bones airline. It was the Spirit Airlines of live streaming, but it got you from gate to gate. Unlike Spirit without delays. So annoying. Anyway, this has been 45 minutes of finding reasons to complain. I've been told this by a certain someone recently. And I'm like, well, there's a difference between bitching and complaining. Complaining is almost a formal bitching where you pick a topic, and bitching comes with a resolution. Complaining is just bitching without any intent or solve. Seth says that Periscope sounds like a get off my lawn generation. I would go back to Periscope tomorrow. Periscope and Vine. The world was so much easier. I can't believe you people, still 7,500 of you in here watching me bitch about nothing. Maybe that's the show I should have been doing this whole time. I don't even know what I'm bitching about anymore. This stream has turned into therapy, where the therapy is an airing of grievances because there's no damn news anymore. We haven't gotten a single roster update other than Steph Curry out in the first minute. The whole purpose of ProfitX sponsoring this show was so that when the daily grind of the NBA, you get a whole bunch of questionables becoming probables and doubtfuls, we can try and capitalize on some closing line value. That shit just hasn't happened in weeks. Oh, how funny is this, by the way? Are you guys ready for this one? So Lauri Markkanen has been out for what? The past 2 weeks due to illness. Okay. Even in a vacuum, knowing what the Utah Jazz have done in previous seasons, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and disregard that, considering their history on what earned them player participation policy violations in the past. Let's just assume that Lauri Markkanen is actually sick. Okay. I believe you, Utah. So he's super sick for about a week and a half, and then he starts missing games due to conditioning, getting back up to game speed, taking his time coming back on a team that is trying to protect their top 8 protected first-round draft pick. If they fall outside of that protection, they lose their pick. And they're sitting in like the 6th spot right now with Keontae George looking like the most improved player who's too good to be benching. Okay. Did you know that Utah has their one nationally televised game coming up tomorrow against the Los Angeles Clippers, the West Coast NBC game? Guess who's likely to play? Lauri Markkanen. Now, why would that be? Because Lauri Markkanen still probably qualifies as a star without me even looking it up. Helwick, can you go see when Lauri Markkanen was either All-NBA or an All-Star? Is it within the last 3 years, 25, 26 would mean if that All-Star game in Utah was 2022, I think he still qualifies as a star. And look at that. Right as I speak this into existence, Lauri Markkanen is officially now questionable with his conditioning to return to the lineup. He's a 2023 All-Star. So that means Lauri Markkanen still qualifies as an NBA star who you are not allowed to keep out of nationally televised games due to the player participation policy violation, which the Jazz have been guilty of, I think, a couple of times now. If they get hit with it again, I don't know if it compounds over years or if it needs to be concurrent in the same season. Oh, we got Keontae George. Look at this. Speaking this shit into existence. Keontae George just ruled out due to rest. Who else is out? Yusuf Nurkic just got listed doubtful with an illness. An illness of what? Getting too many triple doubles in a row? He's on a triple double streak, having the best stretch of his career. Keyonte George hitting game winners, the most improved player, but they don't qualify as stars. You know who does? Lauri Markkanen, and he's feeling better for the nationally televised game. This tank job is all-time work, all-time beautiful, museum-worthy. How does nobody see what's going on with this team? But also remember, Ryan's super sharp, and he knows having them the win. If they're going to win any games, let's do them at home, because the Utah Jazz still sell a shit ton of tickets. The fans care mightily about their franchise. Let's get them some feel-good wins so that we'll get it at home. We go on an East Coast road trip. We'll punt all of those because nobody cares, because they didn't pay to see the team show up and actually try. Helwick in the chat says Nurkic has more 10-plus assist games in his last 3 games than he did in the first 623. Utah needs to lose. They need to lose. They need that pick. AJ Debonsa is waiting for you right down the street at BYU. Millions of dollars pumped into bringing him to BYU with the chance of potentially drafting him. Good chance. Give me a second. Oh my God. Just every time the Jazz publish an injury report, it is the funniest thing, because now Markkanen for a nationally televised game is going to be in there with everyone else sitting out. Utah protected 1 through 8. So let's do a sim lottery here. Let's see what happens. There, right there. Okay, perfect. First sim, Utah. Oh my God, can you imagine if Dallas got the #1 pick again? That was my first spin on the sim. Look at this shit right here. Milwaukee's pick going to ATL. Holy shit. The Clippers move all the way up. 4th pick goes to OKC. Atlanta. Oh, so Atlanta gets the better. Oh, I didn't realize that. Atlanta gets the better of Milwaukee in New Orleans' pick. They have the rights to swap in the event that New Orleans' pick isn't good enough. And it's going to be probably towards the very top, mathematically. Okay. But anyway, this is an example where Utah falls down to 10th. Guess where that pick goes? There's a reason why I didn't mention who that pick is protected against, because it's Oklahoma City, who own everything. The Jazz, absolute cinema in the way that they strategically win an occasional game to keep their fans that want to see a decent product happy, with the long-term vision of needing to retain their pick with the protection of 1 through 8, while strategically playing Lauri Markkanen when his conditioning is back up to speed after being sick, because it's a nationally televised game and they don't want to get hit with another player participation policy violation. But that game is the game that Keyonte George needs some rest. That Yusuf Nurkic on an all-time career heater. He's got that same illness that the flu's been going around. The flu's been going around. Everyone's got the sniffles right now. I think it's a good time for him to sit too. Welcome to the NBA, people. Right when you get hot, you're too hot. Sit down. Let Bryce Sensabaugh start chucking with Svi Mikhailuk. Bryce Sensabaugh can chuck now. JTZ in the chat. Lakers Bulls tonight reminds me that Josh Giddey's half-court buzzer beater from last season changed the NBA landscape. Yep. Run it back, baby. Oh, Cam Thomas is going to play. Did you guys think Cam Thomas got benched? He got passed a grenade at mid-court with 2 seconds left. Why was that such a big deal? Why was that such a big deal? NBA Twitter, their education level, what made NBA Twitter so fun 10 years ago was that everyone was cracking jokes because they understood what you could crack jokes without then people thinking it's fake news, taking it too literally. And everyone understood what you meant because there was a general knowledge of ball. The people that are commenting, building these aggregation accounts are like teenagers that have never played organized basketball before. And the discourse has completely, you can't tell the difference between facetiousness, sarcasm, or reality. Seriousness. Yeah, it's frustrating if you're a player who's trying to win and trying to win that award. Like Keontae George probably wants to play every single night. But you're also getting checks from a franchise that this is what we're going to do. And if you want to continue to get that play time, you need to do this for us. You need to take a game off per week. Because we're trying to build something here and it's necessary because you have established yourself that you're part of our future. That's obvious. We need you to do us a solid and be okay with taking this game off. Guys don't practice anymore. They're not in the day of grinding 82 games like they used to. This is modern day NBA. This is why so many of the league's detractors have so much fuel. I'm not going anywhere. So you don't need to tell me twice. And I'm also not a league hater the way that the younger generation perceives inside the NBA to be. I'm more of just I'm pragmatic and trying to understand the business model that continues to hockey stick in growth of revenue, viewership, impressions, in the little nuances that are necessary to get all of this shit done. We somehow went an hour not talking about inside the NBA. And for that, I thank you all. Because you know I could have gone. I could have given you 30 minutes. I could have given you 30 minutes on the state of inside the NBA and how people's tribal mindsets and echo chambers have clouded their ability to consume a product which has been the staple and standard of NBA media for 2.5 decades. Because you see a 15-second clip pop up on your timeline from a 90-minute show that changes your mind and convinces you that they are just spending every waking minute repeating similar insults, which, by the way, aren't even insults. They're more of just long-running bits. And that there isn't another 89 minutes of content that's being produced by an award-winning team that has built a basketball variety show that is meant to entertain the masses, not just the X's and O's basketball nerds of the internet. It's going to be defeated by a social media machine that can warp people's brains to go from one end of the extreme to the other with one simple publishing of media, tweeting, posts, whatever you want to call it. I would implore anyone who thinks like inside the NBA, they don't watch the games and all they do is they hate on the players. While they don't have the in-depth knowledge of the teams and players that they would if they were still playing, there are plenty of times throughout the program where Ernie is able to corral them, have a legitimate conversation for 10 minutes before they start joking again. But that's the beautiful mess that the show has always been. Like, where are those 10 minutes of them tapping into their experiences, NBA champions, MVPs? Charles Barkley was the best basketball player on the planet in 1992. Best basketball player on the planet, including Michael Jordan, on display at the Barcelona Olympics. When he taps into that experience, it does mean something, even though he's mostly kidding. Do people not realize that Kenny does Kenny's pictures at halftime? Now, the halftime show and the pregame show are completely different than Inside the NBA, which is the branded postgame program. But when Kenny does Kenny's pictures, I don't see people bitching about them. They never talk hoop. They illustrate it in a way that is meant for the masses. Meanwhile, on some of these other programs that are being lauded as the, oh, thank God they saved basketball media on these, watch these ex-players break down film, where again, we can appreciate watching Blake Griffin or Tracy McGrady in NBC with Vince Carter break down a flex cut coming off floppy action. And here's why this player was open. That stuff is important, but it always needs to be put into layman's terms for an audience which traditionally does not care about the in-depth X's and O's of basketball. This is not football. And when I watch one of these segments that gets way too deep, extremely deep, it goes 7-8 minutes of running through a play that no one in their right mind is ever going to retain that information that they are watching on television and then apply it to a game of basketball. We are asking those who just want to sit back, drink a beer, and watch a ball game, which is a majority of sports fans, to get this, to go to NBA University and step right into 401 class. Not 101, 401. There needs to be a middle ground because it has overcorrected immensely. Talking heads doing the LeBron versus Jordan legacy conversation. These lists and rankings of who's better, who would you start a team with? Like, that shit gets exhausting, and it was terrible, terrible television for the same reasons why being too in-depth is as well. And I was certainly looking forward to some sort of market correction, but I do fear that there has been an overcorrection now, that you are going to completely lose the mainstream sports fan. And for that, I always want to thank Inside the NBA for thinking of creative ways to display, illustrate, teach, and educate this information. Have they too market corrected? So maybe it's a little bit too many jokes, too much hating. I could totally hear that side of it. Should they be doing a little bit more education and telling stories from their time in the league and how their interviews with players today and can absorb that information? This is what I saw and you did this great. That would be extremely meaningful. Perhaps just a little bit more of that would balance out the acidity levels that are currently always 1.0, 10.0, never right in the middle. How many times did I just fucking glitch? I'm watching the stream for like a second and I'm like, because this shit sucks. Yeah, the lack of knowledge gets a bit too extreme at times. For sure, I am not denying that Shaq is completely disconnected. If you asked him the results of the games of any contest throughout the week, he probably wouldn't be able to tell you. He's busy running his other businesses. He's promoting something. He's in politics. He's doing a reality television show. He's not, who gives a shit about January NBA games? And then when he's put on one of the most popular NBA platforms, he's not able to have those conversations. If that just the smallest of efforts was put in, it would change everything. We're not even asking to overcorrect to the extent that Amazon and NBC have been doing. You don't need to overcorrect that far. But yes, just a little bit of effort there so that, you know what, we do know what we want to reassure you and reaffirm. We do know what we're talking about. And we're not just going to say the Lakers suck because I don't like them. Right. You're going to start to lose the hardcore diehard audience. When you have enough equity built that you should be able to encompass every single viewer when you've put in 25 plus years of creating solid content before it. I think it's an easy solve for inside the NBA, but it doesn't help when they're only given 28 minutes of airtime because they're on ABC. That's a whole separate topic. Logan says, I love the X's and O's. People can't have both. I love the X's and O's on Prime and NBC, while I also love the comedy and casual viewing of Inside the NBA. I don't know why that's so hard for some people. What a normal, civilized reaction. You want hardcore X's and O's? Amazon's show is for you. You want jokes and barbershop talk? Inside the NBA is for you. Do you want both? You can watch both. You don't have to hate one and love the other. We come full circle on the conversation we've been having throughout the entirety of this show today. Why is that so difficult? Just because you don't like something doesn't mean you have to participate in Schadenfreude every single time. Glitching like Markelle at the free throw line. Oh, that was brutal back in the day. So that glitch wasn't from him like being nervous or a head case. That was always his shoulder was torn, wasn't it? Where did he just disappeared from the league? Markelle Fultz is just gone. Cam Payne, I looked it up the other day, is playing in Serbia. Ben Simmons, gone. Kent Bazemore, gone. Vegan Barbie says, as someone who played, loves, and watches basketball, I often tune out the X's and O's stuff. You want the humor and the human moments. Yeah. Would you agree, Vegan Barbie, that a healthy balance of both perhaps would make an ideal show? Because that's where I stand. I want the inside the NBA humor. And then if they're going to crack jokes on a player, be like, all right, let's get serious for a second. Pull up the tape. Here's why we brought this up regarding Donovan Mitchell. Or here's why we brought this up with what we saw with Joel Embiid tonight. Watch him drop step right here when you get deferred to the side and you start getting in depth about how a flex offense moves. That's such a natural transition, and you're accomplishing both. You're doing the X's and O's, and you're doing the fun stuff and the joke stuff. It is one end of the extreme or the other right now. What I don't need, and with all due respect, I think John Wall was put in a really tough spot. It was something that went viral I saw on my For You page on Twitter. was that NBA TV show, which is, my God, you might as well be airing this on NBA TV. But they had him go up there to a telestrator or to a screen where he didn't have the ability to like pause it himself, draw and like show things. And he had to keep saying like, pause it. And then he was speaking about a play that went on for 2 minutes. And the terminology he's using, I'm like, I know there. 1 out of 100 people walking down the street would have any clue what the hell he's talking about. And he's also not wrong. It was way too some shit that you would see in an NBA film room that even someone who had interest in learning about the X's and O's of basketball would have difficulty following and retaining. This is entertainment. I couldn't believe they put that on air. It just would not stop. This film breakdown that required so much of a producer to like be handling that technology in the background. And he kept talking through this play that just was slowly moving on the screen. And it's one play of 110. I'm like, who is this for? Prime does have a healthy, Prime's coverage has a healthy balance. I like how they move studios, pregame, postgame. They can do their fun little borderline cringe comedy segments after the show. Because, well, it's cringe because Blake Griffin is a very talented comedian and he could be saying things more authentically. He's doing it because he doesn't want to get into trouble and made for TV. But they have their little back and forth. It's cute. Taylor's a great host. And they also have producers behind the scenes that I know. I don't want to drop their names, but I know producers made the move from TNT to Prime, so they know how to make good television. You're not trying to make a good basketball show. You're trying to make good TV first. Victor Oladipo, yeah. Logan says, you want hard X's and O's. There's an app called YouTube with extensive breakdowns, but it feels people are posturing and acting like superior fans because they watched a few Dirk and Haslam breakdowns. That also adds to the complex of some fans when they say you don't know ball. They're not joking because they learned some terms and they can identify things on a screen. You are now a waste of their time if you don't have their same education level as opposed to paying it forward. And if you're someone who enjoys inside the NBA, you're a casual, doesn't appreciate people who are putting in the time. Well, I'm sorry to break this to many of you that are creating that type of content on YouTube, but it has a very low ceiling. There's only so many people that are interested in that content. You can make a good living off of it. It's something you're passionate about. I'm not trying to dissuade you, but let's not act like it is going to rebuild the NBA monoculture, which has been taken away from all the discourse completely. It is content designed for a very specific audience. And I just don't like that each show is for like this particular group. This show is for this particular group. This show. And maybe that speaks more to just where media is at in 2026 and everyone has their little niches. Everything is so fractured. And then with the fractured content comes fractured opinions. Those people that spend the time on the YouTube video breakdowns too, they put in so much work. And they're mostly right and they know what they're talking about. But for everyone who sits there and is fascinated by that stuff, I can name 10 others that would prefer to just drink a beer on the couch and have people talk shit. That's the modern landscape of media consumption. I knew I was going to get that comment before. Herman in the chat said, quote, thank goodness no one asked about Inside the NBA. And I've now ran 30 minutes late. I thought of it myself, and then I pretended like I was reading a comment, which gives me the false flag right to just bitch and complain for 30 minutes about this topic. You get the show, Herman. We've seen a lot less of that particular ESPN personality, by the way. Has anyone noticed that? Seen a lot less of him this season. I do not think that's an accident. Overcorrection. A welcomed overcorrection, but an overcorrection nonetheless. Good amount of the perhaps justified criticism of Shaq, and then is there old curmudgeon-y leanings, but NBA fans are like, yeah, they're a little offensive, but that's our grandpa. Yeah, it's a love-hate relationship. If they started talking hoops again, people would flock. If they were talking hoops based on experience and knowledge, and then using current events, meaning games, to impact their analysis, people would turn back in a heartbeat. They have built, to your point, they have built that equity with the fan base. Well, my friends, this has been a show. We just went an hour and 12 minutes about nothing. No commercials. No commercial interruptions on this show. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to air some grievances. I wish I had more. Here's a good example of a show that, I mean, I could sit here. How many games are going on right now, by the way? Oh, it's just one, Magic and Cavs. Here's an example of a show that I'm trying to lean into injury updates, closing line value, how each Monday, Wednesday, Friday is affected by the ever-changing landscape and churn, overhaul of NBA rosters on a daily basis, and how that affects markets, how that affects spreads, totals, and things like that, props. But when the NBA doesn't provide that information to me, I have to pivot on the fly and do a different show. That's called adapting. Let's go chasing tonight. I'm not going to be making spaghetti with meat sauce for dinner, but it is picture perfect outside in Los Angeles. So choppers can get into the air. But maybe, just maybe, we'll get a chase. On that note, I'm going to sign off. I'll see you guys on Wednesday. Is that okay? I don't know what the hell I'm going to talk about since I just emptied the clip on this show. I'll see you on Wednesday. We'll get back to you guys want the grind of current NBA? Let's platform what's going on and celebrate. We'll do a positive only show on Wednesday. Let's see how long I can go being completely positive without bitching or complaining about something. I will encourage all of you to pull out your timers, and I'm going to be cognizant of it. Just don't bitch. Don't bitch. Let's celebrate everything great from that 50-point blowout in Charlotte today. Let's talk about how Charlotte Hornets have the best point differential in their victories since the new year started. How awesome is that? If you're looking for that type of content, I will see you on Wednesday. Bye-bye.